Welcome to the Poisoner's Cabinet. I'm Sinead.
And I'm Nick.
And this is your weekly podcast exploring the lives of the great poisoners, macabre murders, and captivating crimes from across the centuries, and creating curious cocktails inspired by the tales that we tell. And it's episode 207.
It is.
It is.
Rattling through them.
How are you, Nick?
And sweaty.
You're sweaty.
And very sweaty.
It is warm in the England.
It's warm in the England. It's warm in the flat.
It is warm in the flat. We have spent a good while talking about air conditioners.
Yes, it's been very exciting chat.
Tell me you're in your 40s without telling me you're in your 40s. But yeah, you're okay. You've not been very well this week.
Not been very well, but I'm definitely on the rebound. So yeah.
You're drinking heavily.
Drinking heavily. Yes, exactly. So that's one way to get over illness.
That is nice.
But yes, all much better now, thank you.
Good, exactly. And as people have pointed out as well, the heat in England is different from other heats.
It is. I don't know why it is, but it is very much so.
Someone was on the TikTok today and was talking about, as a South African man who's lived in various places or travelled to different places, and he says, I know what 22 degrees feels like in South Africa, I know what it feels like everywhere else. In England, completely different. He's like, why does it feel like I'm going to die? Why? Someone explain it to us.
It is just generally the constant unpreparedness.
And the complaining.
Because people go, oh, it's 22 degrees, and if you're in South Africa or America or in Europe, you have air cooling.
Yes.
And stuff
it's
like
fine.
that. And it's absolutely fine. And people just deal with it. But here, no one has that. For whatever reason, we've decided as a country to go, no, we will not be comfortable in the summer. Absolutely not.
It is our want.
We will still wear stiff starched shirt and 3 layers of wool before leaving the house.
Because we're good working folk.
Exactly. Because we're British, you know.
Whereas in Ireland, it's just like, we've never known a heat. If it gets hot over there going, no, sure, it was hotter last year. Like, you can never get an Irish person happy about the heat.
So, yeah. So it's like, so we're just constantly complaining about it, but it is very hot.
Any poisonings this week?
Oh, there was me, but...
There was you.
There was me. But I don't know of anyone else. I wasn't paying attention to other people.
You could have been poisoned and left poison in your wake.
Yes, both.
I don't know.
Yes,
I'm not.
Let's say I did that.
I'm not
fun.
privy to the inner machinations of your head and your poisoning plots.
Probably for the best.
Well, let's just move on from that. Well, speaking of poisoning people in secret and generally being hot but also awesome, I think it's time for us to thank our delicious Patreon subscribers.
Yeah, we probably should. So this week we must say very much thank you to Lady May,
to Lindsay Tyndall,
to Sly Fox,
to Josephine Pym,
to Mr. Breedley.
Mr. Breedley?
Mr. Breedley.
Why did you say that like a Jane Austen character?
Mr. Breedley.
Please, will you come and have tea in the lounge? Not the lounge, the parlour. To Hannah Parker.
To Hannah Mary Louise.
And to Audrey Ciadella. I may have got that wrong. Or Ciadella. I hope I don't know. Audrey, we love you.
And there's another one hidden at the top.
Is there?
Yes. To Ninja P.
Ninja P!
Ninja P!
Oh, is that you're peeing like a ninja, or you're a pea that is a ninja?
It could be either.
Or you're trying to hide your identity and you want us to stop. Thank you, delicious, lovely Patreon subscribers. Very good names in there. Really like it.
Definitely, lovely.
We had fun on Patreon this week. We spook of animals on trial.
We spoke of many animals
We
doing
spoke of
horrendous things. I mean, justly punished.
Horrendous things in general for history, because it's one of those stories you have to look at and go, oh, this is funny in hindsight. And then you go, oh, God, people were awful to animals. Yes, animals fully put on trial and accused of all manner of crimes, got lawyers and everything. This was a whole part of history, which we covered on Patreon, and also a great story of a pretender to the crown as well.
Yes.
We had fun?
Did we? Let's say so. Okay. Yeah, it sounds great.
You were there, Nick.
Was I? Okay.
Barely.
Yeah, barely.
If you want to know what the hell we're talking about, please consider joining us on patreon.com/The Poisoner's Cabinet, where you get extra episodes every single week, as well as lots of bonus content, and there's higher tiers where you get a gift pack and a monthly episode where we talk about the weird and wonderful things that are happening around the world now, in the past, in the future. Sometimes we predict it.
Yes.
The next episode of the Case Files of P.C. Morris is coming up very soon, so all of our cyanide connoisseurs need to send us WTF news from wherever you are in the world. Well, Nick, are you ready?
Oh, go on then.
It's hot.
It's hot.
Okay. To drink cocktails, talk about poison.
Should I buy a fan?
I think you could buy a fan.
Could buy a fan.
A fan would be a good interim investment.
Okay.
Or
we
could drink poison and talk about cocktails.
Let's do that, 'cause it's
while
too hot.
dying of the heat.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes, okay.
We could do one of those.
Could
you just
things.
have someone fan us?
Yes.
You must have minions.
Oh, absolutely loads.
Well, why aren't they here now?
They're busy. They're busy doing minion things.
I won't ask. Should we go with the first one?
Yeah, okay.
Hooray, hooray, hooray. It is my story this week, and we can't possibly have a story without a cocktail in hand. As you know, dear listeners, every week we choose a secret ingredient that is inspired by the tale that we tell. It will flavour our cocktail of the week. My story is my pick, and this week's secret ingredient is a wedding.
A wedding.
Webster's Dictionary defines a wedding as the process of eliminating weeds from one's garden. But you see, marriage is much like the eating of an orange. I could do these all day.
Yes, and she will if we don't stop
Yes,
her.
I know.
So-
But a wedding, a wonderful time.
Is it?
A wonderful thing.
Okay,
Generally.
generally.
Yeah, you have a few and you get it right.
Yeah, exactly. Get it right eventually.
Mine was lovely. The one that you went to. But with wedding as your ingredient, your inspiration, Nick, what have you come up with?
Well, we are having this week. We're going to have a honeymoon.
Oh, a honeymoon.
A honeymoon.
Okay. Oh, okay. I like that.
Is that acceptable?
It is. It's wedding related.
Wedding very much inspired by a wedding.
By the wedding. Yes, indeed. If we ever have a story where there's a murder committed on a honeymoon, you're fucked.
More honeymoons!
More honeymoons. Okay, I like it. I'm excited. I don't know if there's honey involved, but I can be down with that. It's fine. I think it is high time for us to walk down the aisle into the Poisoner's Cabinet kitchen and shake up a storm. So we'll see you in a minute.
We'll see you in a bit.
And we're back.
Hello!
So, Nick, we have the honeymoon.
The honeymoon.
It's yellowy. It's pale.
Looks delightful.
It does look delightful, like a honey hue. Aww.
Yes, let's go with
Aww.
that.
Well, that's how all honeymoons should be. Sticky.
Yellow and sticky.
Well, let's just move on. Okay, it looks very delightful, so I think we should dive in.
Okay.
Because I'm thirsty.
Yes.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
That's
Ooh,
sharp and
that's
immediately nice.
That's
immediately nice. I can tell there's lemon in there.
Yes.
Because you sent me across Canterbury to try and find
Because I
lemons.
said Sinead buy lemons.
So I know there's lemon in there.
Yes.
I can
there
taste
is
lemon, but there's other things as well.
Surprisingly
I
so.
warrant. I know. Okay, so it's got a sweetness to it, but it's got a... Okay. What's the base spirit? So gin?
Nope.
Rum?
Nope.
Tequila?
Nope.
It's not mezcal.
Nope.
But whiskey? No,
Nope.
it's not. Well, it's pale, so I'm not
It
seeing
is.
any darkness.
No.
Is there something weird?
Not well. Maybe moderate.
Not a regular spirit?
Not an everyday thing.
Not an everyday thing. Right. What have we got that's pale? That's not... Is it cachaça?
No.
I was really hoping it would be that.
Yeah,
Right.
you were, but it's not.
Absinthe?
Yes.
What?
No.
Oh, God. Right. I was like, have you lost your mind? Is there honey in this?
Nope.
Is there sugar syrup?
Nope.
What's in this? Is something a tiny bit herbally, I'd venture?
Yes.
Behind it? Is it fucking chartreuse?
No.
Oh, thank God. Oh, thank God. Oh, thank God. Thank the various gods. I don't know.
So far, you've got lemons.
I've got lemons and that's it. I am completely thrown. I don't know. I know that I like it. Tell me everything.
Calvados.
Fuck off. What?
Yes.
It doesn't look... It's...
Calvados.
I'm speechless.
Yes.
Calvados.
Calvados.
Oh, I'm going to go insane.
Benedictine.
What?
And some triple sec.
And triple sec. I should have got triple sec. Right, so Calvados,
Yep.
Benedictine,
Yep.
lemon, and triple sec.
Yep.
What colour are all of those? Well, no, triple sec I know is pale. Lemon I know is lemony.
Yes.
What?
Calvados-
Calvados is brown.
No, it's not brown.
It's brown.
It's not brown.
It is. It's pale brown.
It's a very, very pale brown.
What colour is Benedictine?
That's quite brown.
Well, then why isn't this brown?
Because the brown's been diluted by the non-brown things
Oh, okay.
to make it lesser brown.
Good science, by the way.
Yeah,
people.
that's we were talking about color mixing the other day, weren't we? In a previous episode, we were talking about when you mix colors together.
I know, yeah, and this is the continuation.
And you haven't
of
learned
this.
anything, have you?
I've learned
you didn't,
nothing.
You didn't go and study at all.
No, I did. There are some cocktail podcasts that are very detailed in how the colour is formed because it's the pressing of the grapes or the fruits. We're just like, it's brown, but it's not brown this week. Browns were used and there were no browns produced.
Different brown.
But successfully, because that is a delight.
It's a delicious cocktail.
That's really it's too delicious, Nick. I fear it's too delicious
Why?
because it's dangerous.
Yes, I've got it, but you can't have another one. So
Why can't I have another one?
because I'm going more Calvados.
Oh, shit. Okay, that's probably a good thing, actually. Because normally I'd be going, bring the second one on there. It's sharp. It's not overly sweet. It's so nicely balanced.
It's really good.
That is
Really
a
good.
triumph.
Very nice indeed.
And no one would guess what was in that. I defy anyone to be able to guess what was in that. Could you?
I don't know, to be honest. I doubt it, to be honest.
Yeah. One to mix up at home, guys, if you have the ingredients. And some of you definitely do. It is a delight. It's
Very
successful.
Nice. Very good indeed.
Well, without further ado, Nick, we
Hurrah.
have the honeymoon firmly in hand.
Yes.
We're taking it down the road.
Excellent.
Away from the honeymoon suite. Are you ready for a story?
Yes. Does it involve an air conditioner? I'm really hot.
You're really... Do you want to open the window again?
I might have to. I'm really hot.
Cold water on the wrists. Have you tried that? Or just get an ice cube and shove it down your top.
Just shove it in my pants.
Shove it in your
Be fine.
Oh, God. Are you okay?
I'm fine.
Right, okay.
Yes,
Don't keep drinking as a result of being how hot it is. Right, get an ice cube if you need to, because there's still
I'm not going to pass out.
You're acting like you will. Right, I promised you a wedding, Nick.
Yeah.
And it is the pinnacle of our story. A blushing bride, her handsome beau, a few days after their wedding, still in the glow of the romance, they will hear a knock on the door, and a police detective will be standing on the doorstep, uttering the words, "The game is up, Amy."
Oh.
So to understand this tableau that I have created,
A delightful tableau.
a tableau, let me tell you the story and the origins of Amy Bock.
How do we get there?
How did we get there? Is this a name familiar to you?
Not at all.
Oh, good. Because if you knew this story, then all of that was... Well, you'll see. A woman for whom crime was seemingly in her nature.
Oh.
The origins of Amy Bock. It's fair to say that she was born into a life of crime.
Right.
3 out of her 4 grandparents were originally from England. They all emigrated to Tasmania. Emigrated,
yeah.
transported.
Emigrated to Tasmania. Yeah, I'm sure they did.
Her grandmother, Annie Spencer, was convicted of stealing dresses from her employer in England. Apparently, they were very fabulous dresses.
I'm sure they were.
There were lots of feathers involved.
Nice.
And she was wearing them when caught. I was like, oh, okay. Her grandfather, Thomas Bock, was an artist and engraver. He was married with a couple of children from Birmingham. But he was convicted of drugging his girlfriend on the side to induce a miscarriage.
Oh.
Piece of shit.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Both had been transported to Tasmania. Now, Thomas would eventually set up and he would land in Hobart Town. So if you're transported to Tasmania, you've got a fair few years of doing hard labour, but then you can get your pardon.
Yeah.
You can't go home, but you can be an citizen. And Thomas would end up being an engraver and artist, and he had a lot of respect. And he met Annie over there. Ah, yes, we both come from England. We've done things. They formed a relationship. Both of them were married as well.
But that's far away.
Far away. Well, Annie had married when she got over to Tasmania.
That's less far away.
Less far away.
That's
but
closer.
then her husband went far away.
Oh,
but
okay.
he was a sailor. I was about to say a seaman. Like, but same tomato.
He was.
He was a sailor. He was lost at sea.
Oh.
And they'd had a child. Thomas had wife and family. They declined to come with him on
Surprisingly.
transportation. They went, fuck you. No. But Annie and Thomas would meet. They would have many children. When Thomas died, actually, what was made about his standing in the town, his talents as an artist, no one would mention him being a convict because it was kind of the done thing as well. That you've been pardoned, you've done your
And also,
time.
most of the town were convicts.
I'm everyone from Australia, right? You know, we say this every single time. We're not picturing the Simpsons episode, but we are picturing
Slightly,
the Simpsons episode. A wonderful, wonderful place, Australia. Love it. Very close to my heart. But some other stuff happened.
Oh, good.
So Annie's son from her first marriage, her son Alfred, would end up wedding a lady, Mary Parkinson. She had committed no crimes, and her family had committed... Well, no, actually, her dad had committed some crimes. The grandmother, fine on
Right.
that side. But everything was fine. It was all reformed by the time that Amy Bock was born on the 18th of May, 1859. And they wouldn't have talked to her really about the criminal past of the family. No. Not so much. But many people would make out, but the criminality was in her blood, you know. Now, as a child, she was surrounded by a bustling family. Her father, Alfred, was a photographer. So he was quite a successful photographer for a time. He introduced a fashionable style of photograph to the country. It was called carte de visite. Do you know this style? It's tiny little photographs.
Okay.
That could sort of be handed out to people.
Like a calling card.
Almost like a calling card. People have sort of called it the first shades of social media, the selfie.
Okay.
Yeah, you did little calling cards, and it was you could also produce these very quickly. So
Nice.
it's quite easy. But yes, people were doing selfies and they let me pose for 20 minutes and then here we are. Oh my God, having
Nice.
such a good
Like it.
day
Like
in my
it.
stiff dress and in this backdrop here. He entered into, though, unfortunately, a legal battle with another photographer who claimed that he had introduced it to Australia.
No.
And his success as a photographer would really be marred by this legal battle and all sorts of financial problems that they had. There were a lot of bitchy adverts being placed in papers accusing each other. Well, really saying, come to my shop. I'm the only one.
I'm the first one.
I'm the first one. While he did a good trade, Amy's daddy was ultimately declared insolvent. He had to auction off all of his goods from his home, something that young Amy would have witnessed, and the other children. You know, she was the eldest of the brood. And he had a lot of hobbies as well. He acted in Amdram.
Nice.
He would go and photograph and also got involved in those societies. He was a man who liked to keep himself busy. So regattas and botany. Amy would go along with him. But he was also quite a dour man.
Right.
Yeah, so he would go, but he would be miserable the
Miserable
entire
doing
time. Less of him going, come, my favourite child, come with me. He was like, well, if you want to come, it's fine.
Yeah, fine.
May as well. The family would move around. They would move away from Hobart Town to Sale in Victoria because of her mother's health. When she was around about 8 years old, they had moved. Amy was a bright student at school, intelligent. She was a bit shy around other girls, but she had loads of male friends, but more of a tomboy kind of vibe. We're thinking like running, climbing, jumping trees, blah, 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 have a scrap with someone. She was known to be restless and relentlessly active, climbing and riding horses, it was said, as if Satan himself were after her. So she starts to display slightly curious behaviour as well, that the father keeps getting it word of. She once went into a bookshop, one of her most famous incidents when she was a young girl, and she bought a large number of books and placed it on her father's account. And she took the books and she just gave them away to people.
Okay.
Gave them away. Her father was informed of like, okay, well, you're going to pay this bill. Like, no, I didn't say she could go and do these. Not at all. Pulls Amy aside and says, you can't do this without seeking my permission. This is absolutely unacceptable. You have to do this. But she later explained she just had a desire to get things without his knowing, even things she couldn't pay for.
Okay.
So this compulsion starts to emerge. It was doubly worrying to her father, though, because her mother had been showing signs for some time of severe mental illness. Now, today we might class it as bipolar, acts of depression. She would have episodes that would cause a stir not only in the family, but in the rest of the town as well. She liked to stand in the garden, brandishing a carving knife and shouting that she was Lady Macbeth.
Okay.
It's a lot.
That is a lot to deal with when
Yeah.
trying to go to the post office or something.
Yeah, indeed. She was there, and she also she's had 6 children, 4 survived. Not because she was being mental or anything. She's just shouting she's Lady
been
Macbeth.
through a lot, yes,
That
okay.
everyone needs to bow down to her because she is Lady Macbeth, and the father is just getting on with stuff. So the kids are kind of independent is one way of saying it, neglected is another. It was said that Amy was the only one of the children who could calm her mother in that state, so maybe just get her inside, or who would listen to her. So Amy grows up in her teens to be fiercely independent because her parents aren't really present.
Yeah.
You know, her father tolerates her being around. Her mother is very ill. Her father is often working, so she's sorting herself out. She loves the local theatre. She plays the piano brilliantly. She's very intelligent, so she shows a real aptitude for performance. And she assists her father in his photographic work and also for the business. But no one is there to guide her. No one is really taking an interest in how she will become as a person. Yeah, aside from, please make this family money, we're not doing too well.
Yes, we need cash.
And quite grimly, in 1872, her mother is committed to an asylum, is actually prosecuted for lunatic acts. In so many words, it's literally they bring the police to her door. I think she's doing it behind closed doors rather than raging through the streets, but they managed to have this court order. She's committed to an asylum. She would die there 3 years later. So unpleasant.
Yes.
But Amy continues to look after herself, showing a flair for performance and a flair for stealing in her adolescence. And she would later say that her father took her aside and implored her to control her urges, warning her that she was going to go the same way as her mother. So fearful was he that she was going to go down the same path. Amy goes, yep, sure, fine. But no,
whatever, okay.
She would spend 2 years at a boarding school. Her parents, father, shipped her off to a boarding school. Oh, okay, let's do this. And like, oh, okay, we'll get a good education, which she had a good time at.
Yeah.
Until her father pulls her out and goes, no, you need to work. You need to work.
We can't afford this education
but
now.
we need some money. Need some money. And he would sort of pull her out and put her into business and then also piss off later on, like really not bothering, going, whatever little money you have. His business is floundering and he will go into insolvency and then have to move because of it. But she takes a job as a teaching assistant in a small school and gets a good reference and then ends up securing a job as a teacher, the only teacher for a rural school in Gippsland in Victoria at the age of 20.
Okay.
Now, she sort of bounced around everything, but these rural schools, great as someone. Yeah, she's got a little bit of experience, but she can go there. There's 20 students, maybe 20 pupils.
And it's not exactly a higher level maths she's teaching.
No.
This
But she can do plenty.
Yes.
They're young children. But there is a Department of Education, and they have to monitor it, and they have to do lots of tests. And there's a great book from which I took sources from on Amy's life. And the book has infinite, it seems, while reading it, detail on the level of investigation and also processes that were involved in the education system that Amy was involved with. And they're a little bit like, oh God, I can't read this anymore. This is
really dull.
It's like, please raise these children in this rural environment. But also there are forms you must fill out. There are forms to be done.
There have always been forms.
There's always forms. We have
forms.
no way of checking this, but there are forms. Trust me. She takes this job. And her salary is dependent on how many students are enrolled there, how many students turn up, how many students she's teaching. Amy is very happy to report that loads of pupils have been turning up. And then she writes to the education department many times explaining all the things that she's had to fix at the school. All the stuff that she has been forced to get extra money for or on credit from local suppliers. And she just had to use a sort of the equivalent of a promissory note against her salary. So if they could just cover that would be fine. Because, the windows are broken. The children can't be cold while they're being taught. They need to be provided for. She is just racking up all these expenses. And then over time, and it is a really long period of time, really, well, given the many incidents there are, she racks up all sorts of reports about how she's ill. She can't turn up at the school. How many students are turning up? Oh my God, they're turning up in droves. They are. They are so happy to be there. Hundreds of them. Hundreds and hundreds. But she's really not there half the time. Maybe less than half the time. And she's always ill, or she's always got an excuse. She can't be there because she's not very well, or she's been injured. And also there's an agricultural sort of show in the town at the same day, so I don't really want to open the school on the day that I want to go and do this. But, I have another excuse. It's absolutely fine. And yes, there's still droves and droves of students turning up. She just keeps spinning all of these letters to the Department of Education explaining why she was doing an absolutely bang-up job, and also please send me more money, and also inquiring every now and then going, will my salary go up? Because there's students here, there's one more student, and a salary raise and everything like that, while she's also amassing a huge amount of debt. Because she's just borrowing stuff on the school's name, on her salary, and she's buying things that the school doesn't need, and that she doesn't need.
Fun. Okay.
She is buying stuff and giving it away. She doesn't even actually need it. It is just for the process.
Just for the joy of buying stuff.
Absolutely. She tries to transfer to different schools. She continues to be absent from her teaching duties. Investigations are eventually carried out, and they find in one of the schools that she worked at, one of the rural schools, the kids could read, didn't understand what they were saying.
Interesting.
Yeah, so they'd sort of learn to recite, but they didn't know what it was
that they were saying.
Yeah, they were not intelligent. They also, in terms of geography, one class told the inspector when they asked about geography, what is geography? One child said to the inspector, the world is round like an orange and we live in it.
The end.
The end. That's geography.
What more do you need?
I know. Well, he said, well, you didn't say it
better
was flat.
than the world is flat, exactly. So.
Needlework, great. The kids excelled in needlework, apparently. So after the inspection, Amy immediately starts writing letters explaining why she is not at fault here. And these are not just the letters, I must stress, of someone who is trying to back their way out of a room and panicked. Amy is eloquent in these letters. She has got such detail of all of the excuses of why she is not at fault. She's apologetic at the same time. She is like, I realised that I must have let the, equivalent of I've dropped the ball on this. I could read the letters. They're too long because she goes into such detail. But just gives a little, I've just been inexperienced and all of these problems come up and they sort of seem reasonable, which is why really investigations into her teaching don't go anywhere for some time. And she also would say that, all of the roll books are, a mess or a blank. And she says, well, I hurt my hand in an accident, so I haven't been able to do this. Sorry, yes. And then in one letter as well, when they are still calling on her saying, like, there's a lot of absence of information here that doesn't tally up now we've come here. And she writes that her father has just told her that he's getting married and he's sailing for New Zealand. She didn't see any letters being sent to her because she was so distracted about her father's marriage, and her mother is dead, so please excuse me for any errors right now.
Love it.
Pretty much how the letter goes. I mean, that's true. The father has remarried and is moving to New Zealand, but it's just a long, long transcript of her going, oh, it's just been so hard. She also would write that her brother was very ill and would probably die soon, and that, any errors, please show leniency for his sake, if not for mine. Like, he did nothing.
He doesn't care.
But I need to tend to his poor soul. That's what I need. All the while, she's using the equivalent of promissory notes against her salary to obtain all manner of goods and groceries for the school and for many other people. Debts are mounting up around her. She would write to all parties, begging for more time to pay, and again in a very convincing, eloquent manner. A couple of letters she wrote from her own sister Ethel, saying that Amy had died. So, can't pay.
Can't pay now.
Sorry about this.
She's dead.
All of this teaching malarkey, and there's so much detail, and I could have made an entire episode out of that, but it would have been a lot of process. It all came to a head in May 1884. Enough time for her to be Jack the Ripper, I'm just going to say.
Yeah, possibly.
When she was arrested for the first time for obtaining goods by false pretenses. This would be the main charge that was always laid at Amy's door. She didn't steal things outright, but obtained them by false pretenses. Her case was covered by the local press, and they reported back on Amy's defense and what she said in court, and everyone sides kind of with Amy. They wrote, the newspapers are very condescending towards her, but they've bought the act that Amy has set up, saying that her salary was nowhere near sufficient to cover her rather extravagant habits. But it was alleged that she was not responsible for her erratic actions, as insanity existed on her mother's side of the family. Words like unfortunate would be bandied around when reporting about her, rather than cruel or foolish or manipulative or anything. Amy presented herself as a sort of silly kind of woman. I'm going to use the word silly there, that she didn't mean to fall so foul, and people wrote about like, oh well, so many women don't understand
dizzy headed and sort of
absolutely. And her mother was crazy, so she must be crazy.
She must have inherited it as well.
Indeed, a simple frail woman, maybe touched a little in the head, got herself into some bother, very sorry for it. And this ends up with her being acquitted from a fair few number of the charges that are levied against her. Not all of them, I will point out, but everyone describes her mania for shopping. This was described in the press, her mania for shopping, and she was remarkable for the vague nature of her ideas in respect to the property of other people. In the end, she was discharged without conviction based on her poor mental health. She would move into New Zealand. She would go and be with her father. Her father has remarried to a woman who's a year older than Amy.
Nice.
Gets to New Zealand. No, I don't want to live here. This is horrible. Did the whole debacle, though, of teaching and this fraud teach Amy a lesson?
No. Absolutely not.
God, no.
Absolutely not.
She was back into a variety of jobs and just honing her con artistry. All the way. And as I said, this is not someone who is doing it necessarily for personal gain, to build up a fortune. She gives her money away.
Just because she can't stop.
It's because she can't stop. And she would refer to it a lot. Her father used the words kleptomania.
Yeah.
Now, I'm using those words kleptomania. People have different words for it now. And he referred to it, and she hung on to that. She hung on to it, and she would use it in her defense all the time, said, this is a compulsion. I can't stop. Some judges were very cruel about that, and they were just like, well, stealing is stealing, bitch, equivalent of. Did she have kleptomania? It's possible that she did, but she definitely leaned on that defense while continuing doing everything that she wanted to. So she would be over the following years, and there are a number of years, would be arrested and charged several times over with variants of fraud, obtaining possessions by false means, continue to play the part of a foolish, slightly vulnerable lady. Was probably not in her right mind, in and out of prison. A couple of the charges, again, over the years. She convinced the Salvation Army, once she'd left prison, to lend her money to furnish a 6-bedroomed house.
Okay.
And they did.
Why?
She's very convincing.
Yeah.
Very convincing. She used to employ those sorts of cons of, not I need it, my dear old frail mother or an aunt.
Six-bedroom house that I'm going to use to house injured and frail people.
Yes.
Or, yes, war veterans or orphaned children.
It was generally her
something.
family, and she'd say, like, they need to convalesce and they need to do that. And they own the house, but they have run into such trouble. They have been conned, and a lodger embezzled from them, or another relative embezzled. So if you could just lend me the money, I swear I'll be able to pay it back. It's that old thing of people walking up to you in the street and going, I've lost my wallet and I just need money to take my child to the hospital or somewhere, and give me your address and I'll pay you back That's what happened. Defrauded several investors in order to set up her own poultry farm.
Nice.
Yes.
Everyone needs chicken.
Yeah, everyone needs chicken. She invented characters to obtain money from businesses to pay off loan sharks that she had borrowed from, or to help pay for supposedly poor relatives' journey and travel to come and see her. So wealthy people she would implore, I just need a bit of money. They've gotten themselves into some trouble and I promise I can pay it back. And she would use any objects that she'd stolen through false means as collateral.
Yeah.
She was arrested for false premise of getting concert tickets from one person. Don't know what the concert was for. She posed as a cook to look after someone's house once while they were on holiday. And then, of course, sold all of their stuff.
Nice.
Pawned it off that she needed to. And then just disappeared conveniently afterwards. Like, oh, no, I was so confused. She worked at a college for boys as well as a matron. And she conned money right, left and centre. But she used it to buy the boys in the college boots.
Oh, that's sort of vaguely Robin Hood thing sort of going on there-ish.
She didn't
sort of.
keep it. She didn't steal great sums of cash, which is why every time she was caught, and she was caught many times, she was either given a slap on the wrist or she was given jail sentences, many jail sentences, but they were tiny, tiny jail sentences multiple times because it was such a piffling amount, really. And she gave it away. She gave stuff away. She didn't want the stuff for herself. It was the thrill of stealing and conning. In court, she would weep and ask God for forgiveness. She would be so pitiful, explaining that this compulsion, this kleptomania, the word that had been given to her, was at fault here. And she would receive her sentence willingly, and she would stop. In court, she said, the malady I suffer from now has been upon me since childhood, and no one but God and myself know the fearful horror I have had to face year after year, in the knowledge that instead of being able to fight successfully against it, as I have prayed so often to do, it has rather overpowered me more and more. Which is quite a compelling sentence and very heartfelt, and it's possible this is true.
Yeah.
It's true that she's saying, I can't stop. There it is. I wish I didn't have to do this. At the time, no one's sympathetic to that. Everyone's like, well, you're a bloody thief. That's what you are. She did buy weird things as well. There was one incident where she ordered a bunch of coffins.
Okay.
And she had them all sent to one family's house.
That's a fun delivery to receive, isn't it?
Not sure why. No one really kind of knows why. No, yeah.
Okay.
Well, it may be documented, but yeah, she just sent them to someone's house for fun.
For fun.
She's not getting anything out of that. And she is amassing debt and a paper trail behind it. As I said, she was in jail for brief spells. When she was in jail, though, she was polite, hardworking, charming, and she was rewarded for her nicer work. She was given better roles, which she would always use to her advantage. So there was a time she was in a reformatory school. She was sentenced to go and work in a reformatory school in Dunedin. I think this is how you pronounce it in New Zealand, excuse me. She taught the people. She was going to be a teacher because she had a pass as a teacher. She was well organised, and she was really popular in the school. And she was saying to the sort of warden equivalent, headmaster, whatever, of the school, that if she could have an early release, it would be really beneficial. And she's got all these letters from an aunt who speaks so highly of her and has promised her a home in Christchurch when she gets out. I'm on the straight and narrow. And the warden is really taken in by these letters. They're so nice, and they're all printed out, and they're so heartfelt. They're big old chunky things about what a wonderful person she is. Would also chase with the police going, can I just double check this person exists? They're like, no, they don't. She's written all of those. She has written all of those. A lovely aunt has convinced her, no, okay, you're going to serve your full sentence. It's only 6 months, Amy, as well. Calm the shit down. As soon as she was out of jail, she was on to another scam. And this happened repeatedly. As soon as she was out, she kept doing it. There was a nice series, a few times actually, there were scams involving pianos. Piano could have been an ingredient. So yeah, buying a piano under false pretenses, using the piano as collateral to get some money.
I say using a piano under false pretenses.
I mean,
how does that work?
That was one of the charges. I don't know. She may have married it. I don't know. She was a very good musician, but she just kept getting pianos and going, here we go. This happened a few times. Borrowing money from people on the street to get cash back, little and often, a little bit at a time. She would get a job as a housekeeper, use this employer's good name to get collateral to raise funds from wealthy people, claiming that she needed the money to help their employer because their wicked brother had conned them and embezzled them out of lots of money.
Oh, bastards.
This is a composite of various cons that she did over time. And the papers loved her.
Yeah.
She was reported on so many times because she was a career criminal and they just thought she was brilliant. In the Star newspaper said that in New Zealand, perhaps Australasia, this woman stands supreme in her cleverness over other female criminals.
Ah, this is very good.
Over the best part of 20 years.
Christ.
Amy's committed fraud after fraud after fraud after scam after scam after scam.
She's having a grand old time.
So you may be wondering where I'm building to.
Yes.
Well.
There's a wedding there somewhere.
But her crimes had delighted the press, but now the authorities could pick her out. They knew if they heard of a great scam or a little bit of fraud, Amy Bock had to be behind it. In 1909, Amy had been working as a servant for a family, and she had been doing the usual setting up of loans against the collateral of the family while they're away, and she heard that a warrant was issued for her arrest. So Amy vanished.
Oh.
It was time for Amy Bock to disappear.
Oh.
And I think that's time for a drink.
Certainly.
Nick, we have our drinks.
We do.
We do. Amy, who has led a life of repeated crime.
She's fled.
Stealing for the thrill, amassing a fair amount of fame, but yes, she has fled. She's disappeared. Where could she have gone?
Where indeed?
Well, we're going to come now later in that year to Port Molyneux.
Port Molyneux.
I'm probably butchering the pronunciation of that, but is in the South Otago coast of New Zealand, where we meet the lovely Agnes Ottaway.
Dear old Agnes.
Dear old Agnes, staying at the Albion House, a very popular guest house, full of tourists and friendly faces. Nice. It's a really beautiful part of the country, lovely part of the world, lots of happy, fairly well-to-do people. Yeah, travelling through. And Agnes is staying there, and she meets a rather dashing young man, Percy Redwood, also known as Percival Leonard Carroll Redwood.
Fancy.
Yes, that name. Oh, that sounds quite good. Percy, his background, he's a sheep farmer, originally from Canterbury.
Nice. Love it.
New Zealand, Canterbury. But Percy, lovely chap, by all accounts. There were so many people who said he's wealthy, but he was so kind and generous. People falling over themselves saying, like, a lovely guy, buys people gifts, maybe a bit too trusting. One of those people. Nephew of an archbishop. No less. So yeah, goodly sort of man.
Absolutely.
But would happily splash the cash. Just the sort of man that Agnes would love to get to know. And get to know him she does. The pair soon start a courtship. And within weeks, a wedding is taking place. There is a wedding on the 21st of April, 1909. A beautiful ceremony has been arranged at the boarding house overlooking the sea.
Nice.
200 guests. The local MP has been invited. Fancy. Magnificent wedding cake. Oh, yes. They got icers to work on that.
Oh, fancy.
I mean, it was written down that this icer from... I don't know who the icer was, but there were peaks of icing. A wedding feast on the beach. Vintage champagne. Huge piles of wedding presents. Oh, yes. They include an oak and silver biscuit barrel.
Nice.
A travelling bag, a china tea set, a cheese dish, a pickle jar, jelly dishes and spoons.
Oh, don't forget the spoons.
You need to have the spoons with the jelly. A tea cosy. That person cheaped out. a cabinet sewing machine.
Okay.
Who the fuck wheels that to a wedding? Everyone's got small things like, don't worry, I thought you could find this useful. Down on the fucking beach. There it is. And a silver-backed shaving kit.
Nice.
Oh, very nice, very nice.
Very civilized.
It would be talked about for
very
for
society.
days and weeks and everything. It was so lovely. Everyone was invited. There were a few outstanding debts to pay for this lovely wedding.
Did that cake get paid for?
A
All that
few
icing?
people, well, they were a little bit edgy beforehand, but the brides will have their finery. The bride needs a beautiful wedding. We need to do this. Percy's only too happy to please his wife and the guests, and trusts Agnes as well. We'll put this all together. The pair have their wedding. They are pronounced man and wife.
Nice.
On the beach. The cheers and applause of all. And a couple of days later, a knock comes on the couple's door.
Are we back at the beginning?
And we're back at the beginning. And there stands Detective Henry Hunt, says to the couple, "The game is up, Amy." And Percy replies,
Oh, dear old poor old Percy.
"I see you know it all."
Oh.
Because it's Percy who is really Amy Bock.
That's
That's exactly the reaction I was hoping for.
What?
It's not Agnes.
Percy.
It's Percy.
Percy is Amy.
Percy is Amy.
Okay.
Amy has been impersonating a man and has married a woman.
Right. Did Agnes not get a shock on their honeymoon? On their wedding night?
Well, the honeymoon is a lovely thing, as we've established through this cocktail. She claims she knew nothing about this.
Right. Really? How did she know she knew nothing about this?
Percy is Amy Bock. The charming husband has been a woman all along. A 5'1" woman. But it's okay because Agnes, also known as Nessie, by the way, unusually tall for a woman. So everyone just wrote it off. Amy had disappeared and restyled herself as a gentleman, a wealthy sheep farmer, Percy. And he showed up at a boarding house before he even got to where Agnes was based in Nugget Point, had wowed all the guests as this charming, affluent gentleman, flashing the cash, buying gifts. Everyone loved him. Everyone thought he was wonderful. And he used this newfound masculine charm to con one woman at one point out of loaning her apparently her entire life savings because he lost his wallet on the beach. So it's worked brilliantly.
I mean, he's good. She's good.
I will say at this point, we don't know how Amy would have identified at this point. There's been lots of sort of considerations about it. At the time, she was a she.
Yeah.
Posed as a man. There we are. When he met Agnes, she was the landlady. Agnes was the landlady's daughter of that house. I purposely left that out at the beginning. So she was the landlady's daughter. Everyone loved her. And then Percy rocks in like, oh my God, what a lovely gentleman. He's older than Agnes.
Chap.
Yeah. He's lovely and he talks the talk. He has letters from his lawyers and his various investors to prove that he has enough wealth, and also he can use these to get a few loans and and to pay for the wedding, to pay for the big old wedding. By the time the wedding day is rolling around, everyone's going, "You got to pay for these bills."
Yeah,
This is not a small wedding. This is quite large. And he's like, "It's absolutely fine. My family will be turning up on the wedding day, and they will be paying for everything, footing the bill." And bride's father, very proud man, "Oh, of course. I mean, nothing's too good for my one and only daughter."
Indeed.
It's lovely. And then the wedding day rolled around. Percy's family's seats were empty. They're like, "You said that they would be paying for some of this stuff." And I was, "Yes, little darling, it's fine. Your wedding day." What the fuck is going on? Oh yeah, Amy had conned this entire family with this ruse. So the family, after the wedding, with Percy's family not turning up, the family kind of corner Percy in a room and say, "Okay, right, there's a lot of bills outstanding, so you need to pay them because you promised to have. Otherwise, no honeymoon. No honeymoon for you. You will not be going on honeymoon. I will not be paying for it." And say, "Absolutely fine. Don't worry about it. I have fighters and look at all my notes. Look at all my promissory notes. It's absolutely fine. It's absolutely fine." The extended family of dear old Nessie are too suspicious.
Yeah.
This is too much. At this point, no one is claiming that they knew
No.
that Percy was really Amy.
No.
They had no inkling.
They knew something was up, but...
They knew something was up with the money,
Yeah.
and that's all they focused on. Did they know about the gender of the husband or how they
Yeah.
identified? No, absolutely not. But a couple of the relatives of Nessie, extended family, decide to do some digging, and they can't find any trace of Percy's family. So they sort of whisper to the police and go, look, we think this guy might be trying to con us. And then the police listen to everything and then sort of show a picture and go, is this Percy? And they go, yeah, but that's a woman. Like,
if I draw this moustache.
they go, oh my God. It's like, that's Amy Bock. And that leads Detective Hunt to land on the doorstep and goes in and speaks to Amy. And I don't know if the bride is actually there, I think, and speaks to Amy and says, the game's up. And Amy says, look, don't raise too much noise. Yep. I see, you know, all. I will come and I will plead guilty. Let's just get it on with it. And yet willingly walks out of the house.
Okay. Not what I was expecting.
Not what you're expecting. Yep, she'd gotten away with playing a man. She was quite, if you look at the pictures, you know, you can say she's androgynous looking. She is quite short, but everyone made a point that Nessie was so tall that it was just weird. Nessie claimed she had no idea her husband was really a woman. The whole family had been suspicious of Percy, but they all claim no idea it was a woman in disguise.
Well, it's not the first place your mind goes to.
It isn't. Why?
Really?
It seems a bit weird, but why would it not be? And again, and you know, without taking anything else into consideration, it's just the fact that you're conning it, but this is actually a woman. This is not who they said they were. They didn't think it was going to be someone conning them by their identity. Nessie's father apparently said after it was revealed, well, could have been worse. I quite like him for that.
Yeah, fair enough.
Look, what do you want me to say? It's fine. Okay. Amy went away willingly with the police, pleaded guilty to all charges. She stood trial for making a false declaration under the Marriage Act. And also she faced charges of obtaining money by false pretenses. Some of the old stuff that had come back and go, well, now we have you. Yeah. On entering the court, the Evening Star described her entrance as... Okay, this is just what was written, guys. Right. A front view showed a diminutive man, well-dressed, neat of limb, with neater feet and rather good-looking.
Okay.
A back view made it almost impossible to believe that the little man between the detectives was a woman.
Right.
I don't know how to feel about any of that.
Okay.
Yeah, better come than going. Kind of that sort of thing. Like, from the back, definitely a bloke.
Yeah.
It's like, what were you expecting to see? A bustle?
Yeah,
Was that it?
Probably, yes.
He's not wearing a skirt from the back. There's no high heels, dead giveaway. Right. Okay. Amy pleaded guilty, did not put up a fuss at all. She was sentenced to 2 years hard labour. The court recorded that she had been convicted, at this point, 13 times. Had spent more than 16 years in prison previously over different charges.
Oh, wow.
She was deemed a habitual criminal, which is the equivalent of, we need to keep you on permanent probation. Yeah. You will be released when the governor decides it's okay. Agnes Nettie Ottaway did receive an annulment.
Good.
Apparently was just quite shocked and pale
I'm
in the
sure.
stand.
I'm just quite surprised by the whole thing.
Quite surprised. Once again, in jail, Amy was a model prisoner, kind and generous to her fellow inmates. She was released in 1912. She would go on to work in a retirement home. She would go on to assist in teaching in local schools, entertain people as a musician. She would marry a Swedish fisherman. Didn't last very long. She continued to do very good work in the community and to dabble in fraud. Her last court appearance was in 1931, age 71, when she faced 5 counts of obtaining money under false pretenses. She was given a 2-year probation sentence. She would die in 1943, aged 84, in Auckland, and was buried in an unmarked grave.
I mean, she did. She had a hell of a life.
That is the remarkable story of Amy Bock.
Good for her. I mean, that had a twist and a half.
I wasn't sure if I could pull that off.
Nicely done.
Well, it's one of the ones, if you heard her name, certain people go like, oh, you know why. and you sort of scroll through. But I thought I'm going to set this whole thing up that you won't know.
Yes, no, I had no idea.
But that was the main thing, that she posed as a man. And yes, Nessie claimed, and they had courted for weeks.
Yeah.
They courted for weeks, but again,
But
at
such time, you wouldn't definitely not know what's in someone's trousers at that point. You would not have got that far.
You would have described it over poetry. But no, I don't. I mean, on the wedding night, apparently there was one report I read that on the wedding night. Now, I don't know if this is a thing, but Percy did not spend the night with his wife. Actually, stayed in the room with the other groomsmen. So because there was the revelries, I don't know whether that's because there was the revelries of the wedding at the guest house, and there were too many guests there, and rather than just shagging in the room, I don't know. But Amy apparently hit the whiskey very hard as Percy on the wedding day, and was on the piano playing and singing. And Amy never drank. She didn't drink. She didn't gamble. She didn't have any vices, but just hit the whiskey because she was like, oh shit. And then went to the room where she was sharing with her best man, or like the bride's family, and came in pissed and took off the shoes and collar and got into bed fully dressed in a suit. And everyone was like, why are you getting to bed? And she just went,
yeah, it's fine.
Literally that. And they were like, oh, we did think it was a bit odd that he got in fully dressed. And he was like, no, that's fine. I'm going to deal with the wedding night when I can. Various people have thought, was Amy gay? Did they identify as transgender? Did they identify differently? It's one of those things we look back in hindsight. She was a con artist, certainly.
Just seems like a good way to get a scam someone.
It was a hell of a thing to commit to. It was a hell of a thing to commit to and be comfortable with. And I don't think Amy really fit anywhere in society. She certainly felt that, and she was just going to do whatever she felt like. But to go from habitual stealing and fraud to then pose as a completely different person and then go, yeah, I'm going to marry someone. You know, it wasn't implied that Amy/Percy would inherit a huge amount, that it was a decent enough business, but it never seemed to be their MO, really. As in, why did they decide to do that?
Well, it's just the next step of the craziness I can get away with. So I don't. I mean, who knows? Perhaps it was the idea of, okay, this is how I want my life to be. So this is it, and I am going to settle down, and this is where I was going to be, and all will be well. And then
I'll work it out.
I'll work it out, and then the police turn up. So you go, okay, fine, got me. If they hadn't turned up, perhaps he would have lived the rest of her life as Percy.
Yeah. Maybe they decided to be Percy in one guest house, moved away, and then Agnes fell in love. Maybe all thought, oh yeah, I can definitely call this
the whole thing was
family
just a scam right from the very beginning.
So much money, and then just thought, oh, I'll lean into this and I'll take it as far as it goes. You're suddenly walking down the aisle going, I should have probably pulled the ripcord on this. Or they felt like, maybe I can live this life, because why not? You know, I can't be Amy anymore because the police know who I am. And they did find out.
Well, they found out who Percy was. So.
Indeed.
Yeah. Interesting.
It's a head scratcher.
Yeah. No, good one. I like that.
There we are. It was all worth it for the twist,
It was indeed.
Well, what do you think, people? What do you think of the story of Amy Bock and her crazy career as a fraudster, a con artist? One of the best, and one of the people that everyone at the time and all the press praised for their prowess, for their intelligence, of just doing this, of the audacity of the mini cons as well. Literally being that person who marches up to someone in the street and has that big spiel that you go, oh no, have my money, have £10, have £1, or whatever it is. Was able to do that, and then decided, well, you know what, I'm going to do one hell of a last con as well. Do you think that was a con that they were playing, that we're trying to have a new life? Whatever you think, all views are welcome. Jump on the comments of this episode, share your thoughts, your feelings, your musings, but while you do it, you must mix up a honeymoon.
You must. It's damn tasty.
Oh, it's damn tasty.
Damn tasty.
And very good for the summer.
Yes, indeed. So yeah, the recipe will be out this evening. So yeah, take a look. If you've got the bits, give it a go. It's great.
Yes. If you've got the bits, is also a good tagline for this story. Make sure that you tag us in any pictures of cocktails you were enjoying on social media, or whatever you're doing on social media, feel free to tag us so we can share them to our stories and we can chat to you. You can send us more suggestions of stories that we can be covering in the future, whether they are crimes, whether they are big biographies of crazy people, and just some good old-fashioned murders and poisons. We love to hear about them. If you can, please join us on patreon.com/The Poisonous Cabinet, and please consider leaving us a 5-star review if you like this episode or you like what we do in general on Apple iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Thanks for listening, guys. We have been the people inside the Poisoner's Cabinet. We will see you next week. And remember, your loved ones are trying to kill you.
For you.